right, well, thank you. I'm really glad to see the crowd because I think for the last session, the last day, this is terrific. So I know that it's the quality of the people in this room that's going to make a difference today. And so I'd like to welcome everyone. And today's session is on IT/OT convergence. And I'm going to skip this poll, if you don't mind, so we can get into the things that I think people are here for, which is the use cases. And so it's called IT/OT Convergence, the future is now. And this is what people are actually doing today in the manufacturing. And I'll talk about some of the challenges and the trends and the benefits. Just really quickly, high-level presentation, not meant to be details. I've seen a lot of details. But just to give you an overview and just to give you a kind of to frame the session. Oh, I guess. So anyway, there's a number of trends and drivers, and I'll talk a little bit about that very quickly, challenges, and we'll get to the use cases right away. And we have two. We're going to go from the process industry to the discrete industry, and from the very different industries, but they are doing, they've had similar challenges you'll see and similar issues that they've encountered and how they've overcome them. And we're going from the biotech to the turbine manufacturing. So, and I think we have some really good speakers. Actually, all of my sessions have had great speakers, but I think even in this session we have the best speakers to last, you see. So some of the, very quickly, some of the drivers are, of course, the Internet of Things. We're all seeing that. The complexity of data and the data sharing that we're seeing, that people want to collaborate on information. We're also seeing a lot around the analytics and the connectivity, and we have some people on the panel that will be joining us that are from the OPA Association, so they can talk to that. We're also hearing about things about the cultures and how it's almost a culture change in some ways when you make that connection between IT and OT. And it's also great at this conference. Usually we see a lot of OT. We're seeing more and more IT people, so I think that's terrific as well. And it's also about some of these new platforms that we're seeing, making that connection and things like that. So it's about putting things into action and being much more collaborative today. And IoT is a driver. It's a definite driver. We're seeing that, and it's really enabling the digital transformation, and it's connecting everything. You hear about the connected Internet of Everything. Well, it is connecting everything, and it's empowering people. And so that's the thing, and we're seeing all these aging systems and things, and how do you connect them, and where do you make these changes? There's a lot of challenges in our industry, because there's a lot of traditional things, a lot of plants and acquisitions, and someone was talking to me about they have this version, that version, they have multiple systems, and they don't know what's the next step. So that's what a lot of people are talking about in these sessions. So some of the challenges and some of the differentials around IT/OT conversion include, it's not just the technology, which in the information technology, it's more like the network and the data centers doing patches and updates. Those are their concerns. Whereas in the operational, the technology is purpose-built technology. It's built for industrial automation. And in the IT session, there's an information mindset, and it's really about the financial and business transactions in the company, whereas the information mindset in the operational technology group is around process control. It's the integrity of the data. Going to zero downtime is always is something that's a goal. Uptime, having increasing quality, safety issues, and operational efficiency. And of course, cybersecurity, because we've had a lot of sessions on that, so it is important. We probably won't be dwelling on that area, but it just gives you an idea. Real-time data, those are the other things that people are looking at in the process industry in the context of the plant and the equipment, sensors. So that frames it a little bit. Oops. There's another very good slide here. And the thing about this is there's some key differences that people see between the different tech groups. Of course, we just mentioned about the scope between information technology and operational technologies. There's also the interface, like people communicate different ways in the business group as opposed to in the operational technology. It's those ways as well as they're communicating with sensors, vehicles, compressors, motors, sensors, so on, etc. And the focus is also different. In the IT session, you're focusing on the business transaction and processes in business, whereas in the operations, you're focusing on controlling things in production processes. And also the architectures differ, whereas in the IT, it's more standard and homogeneous, whereas a lot of times in OT, you see a lot of different proprietary systems, and they're also, in many cases, siloed. And the cycle time for replacing for some other systems is shorter in the business area, whereas in the process area, you have systems that are 30 plus years old, and so sometimes it's in the decades that they replace them. And then the functions and the applications differ as well. So just very quickly, the challenge and the functionality for IT is to keep the corporate business functions and apps running smoothly versus running the manufacturing process smoothly, And they also manage the software, the hardware, the network, so on, et cetera. Their concerns in cybersecurity, more around proprietary information, people issues in the infrastructure, as opposed to in the manufacturing area, you're managing the physical sensors and the equipment, and you have a lot of concerns around uptime, safety, quality, and operational efficiency. It's just slightly different focus. So, some of the applications, there's all kinds of applications. These are just a couple that I pulled out that, on the business side, you see these types of applications, financial, CRM, you see email. On the operations side, we don't see email, we see the MES, the operational analytics that we've been seeing, automation systems, DCS, PLCs, SCADA systems, process historians, and sensors and smart devices. So we're also seeing new platforms. And we've seen a number of different, Andy talked a little bit about this new sensor with the cloud platform. We've seen the OPA platform. We've seen the Nomura platform. So these are all important, and we have some people from OPC that are going to talk about some of the interconnectivity and things that they're working on as well. So, and then the cyber issues are sometimes a little bit different. IT is cybersecurity around the data in the business, well, all the data, and the systems are much more open because of email and some of these other programs that they have. Whereas in the OT, they're more proprietary and closed systems. So the focus is a little bit different, and there's a little bit more risk and safety issues on the OT side. So there's some other challenges as well, like the technology connection challenges, and that's what some of these OPC is trying to, this with all this open automation, everything's trying to overcome. There's also an increasing demand for getting insights quickly. We've seen a lot of things on analytics this week and the data integration, how they're using it. We're also seeing things about the factories and multiple generations and all these things about aging systems and what to do about that and how people are making that connection. That's sometimes an issue that people meet. And there's a cultural aspect and a people aspect and how they align the mindsets of the two different functionalities. And also use cases. So that's where you guys are going to help today and see all these some use cases where companies have successfully made this transition. So these are just a few there's different options that people choose, as far as how they align themselves from a cultural standpoint. Option one, I think people are trying to get away from, which is to separate manufacturing IT from OT. Option two is one that several people, I think, probably in this room use, and that's to train or embed IT skills in the automation and engineering. Option three is also one I've heard people using, which is to put engineering resources under IT services, and I know people have done that transition. And then the fourth option is to put OT resources in engineering. And maybe there's some other options too that people have done, so that would be interesting to hear about. So culture is really, really important, and a lot of people have mentioned this during the week, so I'm just going to go, just mention a couple of things. And executive support is important, and so people do need that. It needs to come from the top and from the bottom, people said. but the mindsets need to align, and they also need to be able to do some of what they call the community sharing of data, which a lot of times people don't want to do that, and that's really important. So it may require, in some companies, a culture change to make that transition. So what's essential? Well, all of these new technologies are essential. The culture change is essential. Having that convergence of IT, you'll see this today, and the connectivity and the platforms, all of that, they need to communicate, and it needs to be collaborative. And I do think that's extremely important part of IT-OT convergence. But although these people could probably comment some more on it, because they've actually done this and been there. So lastly, I'd just like to say that leverage new technologies and standards and embrace the digital transformation, because I do think that the future is now, and you will see this. And this session is going to explore how these users are addressing the IT-OT convergence and the value that they're getting out of it today. So with that, I'd like to introduce my first speaker. I'd like to thank you, too. But I'd like to introduce my first speaker, and that's Matt Willett from Biogen. And I've been very impressed with this, with Matt. So he had a nice conversation with him. So I think that you guys are going to be impressed as well.